Welcome, everybody, to episode 40 of the Bergen Catholic Podcast. I'm your co-host, Dan Long, BC Class of 2003, joined alongside by my co-host, Matt Rosa, BC Class of 2008. And on this week's episode, we are joined once again for a second appearance on the BC Podcast by Brother Ben McDonough. And Brother McDonough, first off, welcome back to the show. A second appearance, that is historic. Not many people get that honor. But we want to talk about your trip to Rome, that you spent some time there just at the beginning of this brand new 2025-26 school year, and we want to hear all about it. So first off, what was that experience like to find out in the first place that you would be gaining this opportunity? What an amazing opportunity at that, to travel abroad.
Thank you for welcoming me back, and it's very good to be home, even though I didn't want to head home when it was time. And I was very, very appreciative of the experience that I was able to avail myself of. I was invited by our general leadership team, which is 6 guys who live in our generalate in Rome. And they invited myself and 5 other brothers from different parts of the world to come together for 6 weeks and form community and to deal with who we are as brothers. Our general leadership team, John is from Ireland, Amandi is from Africa, we have Dave is India, Ugo is South America, and Senan is India, Africa, and also Odongo, and Tony from South Australia. So those are the people that normally live in Rome. And then they invited myself from the United States. Eamon came from Wexford in Ireland. Robert came from Delhi in India. Peter came from Sierra Leone. Revi came from Zambia. And Cornell came from Tanzania. So we had all sorts of different cultures living and being together. I was the only North American. I was also the elder. I was the oldest of the group that came. So it was very interesting. The youngest who was there was Robert from India. He was 44, so there was a 25-year gap between us all. We were part of the Jubilee for Consecrated Life celebrated by the Vatican this year. And that was an amazing experience, being together with people from all different forms of religious life or consecrated life, from consecrated virgins, there were hermits, there were religious brothers, religious sisters, religious priests, there were new forms of community living in religious life, and it was just an interesting time to be church and to be an experience of church. Our group, we had a part of our pilgrimage, we walked together through the Holy Door at St. Peter's in the Vatican to show our pilgrimage in consecrated life, and it was an amazing experience. John, who's our general superior, has lived in Rome for the past 11 years, and in the afternoons we would get these long, brisk walks. We would walk the walls of Vatican City. We would go here, we would go there, we would spend time at the Colosseum and then walk back. Our generalate is in a lovely part of downtown Rome. It's a 15-minute walk from the Vatican, and an amazing place. We used to have a school there. Mark Antonio Colonna was the name of the school, and the residence was built there in 1920. And it became our generalate in the 1960s, and the school closed in the 70s. It's now run by a group of sisters as part of a university system. But it was an amazing time to be in Rome. We got close to being near Pope Leo, didn't get to see him or meet him personally, but one of our group did. Peter from Sierra Leone was chosen to bring the gifts up at the offertory in one of the liturgies, and he got to meet Pope Leo, and his mother now has this beautiful picture of her son and the Pope.
When did you first find out that you were chosen to be part of this group, to go to Rome, to be there for, what was it, around 6 weeks, that to be able to experience something that, like you said, you were the only representative from North America? When did you know of this honor, and how excited were you over the course of the summer to get ready for this trip?
Well, I got an email inviting me from Peter Zawad, our provincial, and saying this is a golden opportunity, and it certainly was. And I ended up, that was in June, and in the midst of it all, dealing with the demise of Brother Sulo, who may have been on this podcast twice already.
I think only once.
Yeah. Oh,
I think so.
once?
You surpassed, yeah.
I've gone beyond, and it was the perfect way after his death and burial to deal with a bit of my grief and mourning in his life, and just to be away from here. Because the funny thing is, now that I'm back, one of my responsibilities is to write his life. Because we publish the life of every brother who has lived in the congregation. So I'm culling through different sources now. Thanks be to God, he did do some stuff on his early life.
I was about to say, with Brother Sulo, a great friend of yours, someone that you lived with several different times before even coming here to Bergen Catholic, did you think of him at all in terms of the Italian cuisine when you were living abroad for the last 6 weeks? Something that he always talked about here on the podcast, and that there was a friendly little rivalry, we would say, that even when we'd bring it up when not on the podcast, talking about, well, I'm cooking tonight, or Brother McDonough is going to be doing this, but I have a better recipe for this or that. Did you think of him at all as you were on your trip in Rome and in Italy, where he obviously would always be praising about his Italian heritage?
Well, first of all, I was shocked at the number of Italians, from young to old, who still smoke cigarettes and vape. I couldn't believe, and that reminded me of him. Amazingly, but the other thing, the Sunday before I came home, I was out walking, and I came upon this little coffee shop that had strudel, which was his favorite pastry. So I went in and bought a strudel and had a cup of cappuccino like he would have, and celebrated him before I came home.
What is it like now to have Brother Dunbar living with you, as you've done that before with him in other places, but this is his first time here at Bergen Catholic, and also having Brother Vercruysse here, more of a long-term solution for him rather than just waiting to see if he was going to be able to get his visa to go back to Ireland where he was before. Now that he's on the full-time faculty, what is it like now to be living in this community together with those two?
Well, it's very different. When I first came here 4 years ago, there were 4 of us. Then we went to 3, and now we're back at 4. And different people come and go, but our community is who we are as brothers, and that's what brings us together. That's why we're religious, because we live a common life. And we share the ups and downs, the cooking, the cleaning, washing, laundry, whatever. But it's all part of who we are. Brother Dunbar I've lived with twice in East Harlem. Brother Veracruz I lived with when we were in college. He was a year ahead of me. He was a senior when I was a junior at Iona. And each one of us brings our own unique gifts. We don't have the loud voice that used to gravel around the house, but a wonderful experience of what it means to be a Christian Brothers community. It's been wonderful to come home to, because it's not the same place I left.
As you're hinting at that, as amazing as your trip was to Rome, is it difficult for you now, being in charge of campus ministry, to kind of get thrust back into the thick of things, as we've already started a couple months in, and now it's the month of November? Is it kind of weird to not have that beginning of September to get underneath you? Or, okay, no, this is kind of autopilot for me. I'm back on campus. I'm good to go. You're greeting everyone, with Crusader for a Day events. Is it tough at all? Is there any type of transition period, or you just look lovingly outside the window, wishing you were back in Rome some days?
No, well, the interesting thing was I arrived home on Thursday night, and the following Thursday was our first retreat for the year. So I had a week, but while I was in Rome, I sent Dr. Spiegel some videos that I wanted copied, so he was wonderful to do that for me. Because one of the things that made a big impression on me is when we went to Assisi, we were at the tomb of Carlo Acutis. So I've done some research on him, and all of the retreats this year are getting a bit of Carlo. And a little video explaining how this 15-year-old ended up becoming the first millennial saint.
What would you feel is one of the greatest things that you've taken from that 6-week excursion to Rome, having that experience, meeting with so many of the brothers, the hierarchy, getting to know and meet so many different people and experience the culture. What are some of the main things that you take from that golden opportunity?
First thing, I guess, is the joy of being a Christian brother. That really came home to me. And who I am as a brother, who we are as brothers, and what our role in the church is. We spent time looking at our constitutions, looking at scripture, looking at our charism, looking at who we are as brothers, as Edmund Rice's followers. And that was the joy.
Brother McDonough, we are thrilled that you not only got that opportunity, but that you are back home here in Crusader country. You make such a huge difference in the day-to-day life of Bergen Catholic. And thank you again for coming here on the podcast, paying tribute to Brother Sulo, telling us all about what it was like to be in Italy. And here's to so many more great memories here with you here in Oradell.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you, Matt. It was wonderful being with you this morning. You were very quiet, but that happens. You probably didn't get much sleep with Cameron last night. But thank you. And I was welcomed back by so many faculty, staff, and students. It was an amazing experience.
Again, we love having you back, and we definitely knew you were back when we heard the distinctive sound of your bagpipes being played. We knew that you were home and you were where you're meant to be. And again, yeah, Matt didn't have the speaking role that he normally has in this interview, but we'll catch him next time. So again, that was Brother Ben McDonough here as our podcast guest on the Bergen Catholic Podcast, episode 40. Stick around for much more coming up. Come join us on Thursday, November 20th at the Venetian in Garfield, New Jersey, the setting for the 2025 Bergen Catholic Crusader Gala, where this year we honor and pay tribute to our Bergen Catholic teachers. You can buy your Bergen Catholic Crusader Gala tickets at bergencatholic.org/gala. While there, you could also purchase tickets for the 50-50 raffle and participate in the wine pull event. And also, there's going to be great silent auction items that you could bid on and win. So again, join us for a great night honoring Bergen Catholic's proud tradition of leaders in the classroom by coming out on November 20th, 2025 at the Venetian for the 2025 Crusader Gala. Be sure to be up to date on everything that's going on in Crusader country by following Bergen Catholic on social media. You can follow BC on Facebook, Instagram, and X for all of your news related to BC. So again, follow Bergen Catholic on social media today. All right, welcome back, everybody, here to episode 40 of the Bergen Catholic Podcast. Now time for our normal segment where we take a look at the news, sports, and upcoming events here in Crusader country. And not the biggest week in terms of events last week here at BC. Obviously, the big event that was the headliner came at the end of the week on Friday when Bergen Catholic celebrated Halloween here on campus. So many great costumes done by the seniors. The freshmen also stood out as the newest members of the community and kind of got into the mood of it. And certainly my favorite were the guys who dressed up as the main characters from the movie The Hangover. I thought they were awesome, and they even found their way into taking a picture, Matt, near the elevator, near the locker room area, just out of the movie poster. So that was incredible. But something that did not even make it into the Instagram posts that I put up for BC and the social media purposes, Matt O'Connor and Tom McLaughlin, two teachers here that do share a similarity in their appearance. They did the ultimate thing of all time when it came to Halloween. They dressed up identical to one another. And then in the midst of their classes teaching their freshman sections in Latin and history, said, hey guys, just do your work for 1 second. I have to take a call. And then swapped out into each other's classes and just acted like they were the other person and immediately went right back into teaching a Latin lesson for the remainder of the period. I mean, you want to talk about committing to the bit. So Tom would come into Matt's class. He would then continue to teach about everything that is Latin on the dollar bill and why it is used in certain circumstances and other places in history. And then Matt went into Tom's class and just nonchalantly spoke about ancient Greece to the rest of his class. I think that is just Bergen Catholic at its peak. And it's always fun with Halloween, especially for someone like myself that didn't have the luxury of dressing up for Halloween Thanks in part to those classes that preceded me here and dressed up as Brother Kelly, but that's a topic for another day. It's fun to see the students and certainly the faculty and staff getting into the mix, and that's a real fun move that both Matt O'Connor and Tom McLaughlin did of dressing up as each other and then just committing to the bit and doing that and having the freshmen kind of wondering what is going on. This is not our teacher, right?
It's always great when the faculty get just as much into it as the kids do, but it also shows that the faculty understand the sense of humor that this building has. So to see that Tom and Matt did that is awesome. But I got to go back to the kids for a minute, for the sole fact that The Hangover came out when I was a freshman in college. So I was very fresh out of here as a student. So to be able to, and I preface this by, I know that because when I think I was 19 or 18 at the time, we wanted to go see it. And fellow Bergen Catholic alumnus, Jordan Patton, also wanted to see it. Jordan's class of 2011. Jordan could not go without an adult who was 21. So, me and my best friend Steve, class of 08, we're trying to figure out who can go with us. Steve has the brilliant idea of, I know the perfect person. And Dan, I don't know if I ever told you the story.
I think you did. Go ahead.
Steve picks up his phone, makes a phone call, goes, Mr. Henry will be here in 15 minutes. So we went to see The Hangover with Jordan, myself, Steve, and Mr. Henry. He was the adult who chaperoned the group because we couldn't be with somebody who was under 18 unless we had a 21-year-old present. But anybody who's in my age group loved The Hangover because it was popular when we were in high school and in college. So to see kids now still use that as a bit, I always find impressive.
And it's funny for me because kind of the same way you're looking at some of these guys walking up and down the hall and you're like, all right, this is great that it's not just wearing a football jersey and saying, oh, I'm Patrick Mahomes, but I'm like, does that guy have a baby on his chest? I'm like, wait, that is a drawn-on beard. I'm like, wait, these are the guys from The Hangover. I'm like, I didn't know that was still a movie for this generation. Then you also saw a couple of the guys who were great. They were dressed up from Step Brothers. They're wearing their Argyle sweaters. That could have been like my brother, what he wore back in the early 90s here at Bergen. That was fashionable, but, having two guys with the dress shirts and the Argyle sweaters. Of course, when you have people dressed up as Pokemon, I think the football guys being Woody and Buzz, outstanding. And because that they absolutely love that as kids. And now they're hard-hitting linebackers, and they're Woody and Buzz. And even when I went to go take a picture of one of them, Mason Mark goes, wait, I can't take a picture without Woody. And then obviously you have other people, Freddy Krueger, and always the classic IHA uniform. That was kind of crazy, knowing my sister wore the exact same thing. I'm like, kudos to you that you're going around wearing your IHA green sweater and skirt all day. But Halloween is always a lot of fun here because the guys in this setting, you would think, if you're in the outside world, you would think that, oh, wow, all boys atmosphere, testosterone through the roof, they're going to be too cool for school to dress up. It is the absolute complete opposite here at BC. I think because you don't have girls around to try to impress, guys can just be guys and just dress up and be funny and not take themselves too seriously, as opposed to maybe other situations where you'd have people like, I would never find myself wearing a Captain America outfit. Well, Mikey McMahon, the standout offensive lineman who's bound for Dartmouth, he goes, man, I left my mark here, not just for football. I've been crushing it for years with these Halloween costumes. He was Buddy the Elf the previous year. So to have those guys dress up and have other faculty members dress up for Halloween was great. Amy C's and some of the other ladies were dressed up as Mario Luigi, Princess Peach with Stephanie Peach. I think it went well. And again, it makes it fun to be here on those type of days. And that's something that's what Bergen Catholic is really all about. Then going into this early portion of the next week, A cool thing, Matt, is having the AP seminar class joining the likes of AP Research and Honors Research, and they went on a field trip to Seton Hall University's main campus library, where they were being taught by the librarians on staff there the proper ways of researching for their academic papers in the library and being entrusted with the opportunity to experience the special collections, the archives at a big-time research university. So all of those students, not only did they get away from campus for a day, but for a great cause of just the simple things of how do you find the certain topics you're looking for. It sounds crazy, but in a day and age where people are more used to doing things digitally, to actually find the stacks, to find the physical books, to find reading rooms, these are resources that are going to be huge for them down the line when they actually go to college next year.
We talk about academic leaders, right? And we talk about all the things that our kids do in class to be able to be as successful as they are and go on to some of the best colleges and universities in the country. It starts really when they're here. And it shows this attention to detail in terms of the academic expectations of students when they leave here, right? We talk about wanting to have our students prepared for college when they leave here and are learning how to do proper research, but learning specifically not just from our teachers in the building, but learning from those that college kids are learning from, and being able to use all of the resources that they're currently using for their own papers. It just goes to show the rigor of the academics that we're trying to provide every young man that walks these halls.
So those were some of the news stories of note near the end of last week, the beginning of this week. Obviously, all the sights set on the upcoming open house that's going to be taking place on November 5th. And now that shifts us to the sports scene, as we have officially entered into state playoff mode when it comes to various Bergen Catholic sports. Matt, the big headliner of course in the fall is football. The football team finished their regular season 7-2 overall. They had a whitewashing of Seton Hall Prep in their final game of the regular season to get them into the postseason. They have 2 combined losses by a total of 6 points against their 2 biggest rivals. The sky is not falling here in Oradell for the 4-time reigning state champs in non-public A. But then there was controversy when the seating committee met in the non-public ranks, and the seating committee consists of public school athletic directors who are anonymous. And then the seating came out: Don Bosco number 1, St. Joe's number 3, St. Peter's Prep the surprise pick as number 2, and Bergen Catholic number 4. So the road to MetLife will begin in Oradell against St. Joe's Metuchen next week, because all the Catholic schools have a bye week this week. But then going into the quarterfinals, it's BC versus St. Joe's Metuchen. And then if Bergen Catholic is victorious and advances to the semifinals, there's a potential rematch going on in Ramsey against Don Bosco Prep, which, by the way, I don't think the rivals in Ramsey are all that keen to knowing that they might have to take down BC in the semifinals, not even just waiting until MetLife. After, if people weren't aware, the Don Bosco Prep president posted on social media on Sunday decrying this system for the unjust seeding and having this matchup being the semifinals, and it's not fair, and Don Bosco might actually think about leaving the NJSIAA and starting a new conference and a new organization with the other Catholic schools. And then that was kind of walked back a little bit in a subsequent interview with the president of Don Bosco. But I think that tells you everything. I think Bergen Catholic, learning from last year, Matt, being the 1 seed but not having an easy road to MetLife, having to face St. Joe's, who they had to defeat in overtime here in the semifinals. It's kind of like, put the football down, we're ready to play, let's see who's scared now. And I'm not saying that Don Bosco Prep is scared, but when your president comes out and is vociferous in a opposition to Bergen Catholic being the semifinal opponent, I think it says everything, and hopefully this also motivates BC to a fuller extent of, hey, we might be a team that has 2 losses, but we're still the ones that people are a little nervous about.
Yeah, but no, the president wasn't worried about Bosco. He felt bad for us. That's the narrative, and we're going to stick to it. It was unjust for us to be the 4 seed. Really, there's not much to say about it other than, obviously, the regular season didn't go as we always hope. But this is a brand new season. We go 3-0. No one is talking about the 2 losses that took place in the regular season. I have nothing but confidence in the group that is leading this team into preparation for these potential 3 games. When you want to win a state championship, you want to go through our friends in Ramsey. Whether it's in the semifinal, whether it's in the quarterfinal, whether it's at MetLife, there is something to playing your arch rival in the playoffs, because really that is what has made that rivalry as strong as it is. Right? When I think about some of the rivalries that exist in high school in other areas, a lot of them are Thanksgiving games. It's after the season. It doesn't really count for anything but quote-unquote bragging rights. This is your regular season game is really important, but that could all go away if you don't win both. Right? We've been fortunate enough the last 2 years. We've won both. 3 years ago, we had a pretty rough outing against them at home, to then follow it up with the largest margin of victory in a non-public A final at MetLife against them. No one remembered the 31-7 loss week 4. We have that same opportunity here. And I think that is what makes this game special, is every game matters so much, but absolutely nobody that wears scarlet and gold is going to remember the 5-point loss in the last week of September if we end up taking advantage of our opportunities and being on the winning side in November.
I mentioned this, shameless plug alert, on the other podcast that I work on with the Jersey Blitz for NJ.com, that I think the committee got it right. The biggest point of contention that a lot of people have is the secrecy of the actual group that determines the seeds. And it's more like if you could come out with an explanation, kind of like what they do for the NCAA football, college football playoff reveal, as well as March Madness, of this was the main focus. Head-to-head is the number one weighted category that we have to decide the seeds. Then so be it. That's where it falls. If you look at it, Bergen Catholic lost in their 2 matchups to St. Joe's and Bosco. St. Peter's split with their two games there. Now, throwing a wrench into it, St. Peter's never had to play Bergen Catholic. So there's no chance of having a head-to-head where, all right, BC beat the Marauders, so now BC's got to be the number 3 seed. Is Bergen Catholic the number 4 ranked team in this group? Absolutely not. They are a very dangerous team. You can make the argument of, Bergen Catholic is still the odds-on favorite to win the championship until they're defeated in the postseason, which they haven't been in quite some time, when it was last Don Bosco Prep in the quarterfinals of, I believe it was 2019. So you have all that, but then this excess noise is what adds to the fun. And that's where it's like, ooh, if you're having an official from another school saying this stuff, this has got to be juicy. And then you have the reporters come in and they start to then materialize and create an article about it. And it's all really for nothing, because Don Bosco got the number 1 overall seed. So to then try to create this narrative of, well, we feel badly for Bergen Catholic. Please, 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 please. No one is going to feel bad for BC if we were given the 8th seed. We are the team that's won the most state championships in non-public A in New Jersey football history. We've won 4 in a row. And quite frankly, and I say this lovingly, there are a lot of people in our community that are downright spoiled by this run of success. You are not supposed to, in this day and age, much like the NFL, with a day and age of parity, win 4 in a row, let alone 2 in a row. So when people actually see, wow, Bergen Catholic is human, and they've dropped 2 games, yet they're still 7-2 and a serious threat for the state championship, it's pretty interesting to see that. So we'll have a week off before we really dive into the playoffs and look at that first round matchup, a school that I know all too much about in St. Joe's Metuchen, having broadcast 3 of their games for NJ.com's football coverage. I think I'm closer to getting into that Hall of Fame than the Bergen Catholic Hall of Fame. So we'll talk about that matchup, but boy, on the horizon, if you're Bergen Catholic and you're thinking maybe the stars are aligning, you can get an undefeated Don Bosco Prep team in the semifinals and all the pressure be on them rather than on the 4-time reigning state champs. I think people will sign up for that. In looking now at the other sports this fall, the soccer team had a tough weekend, Matt. They had championship Saturday. Both the freshman and varsity teams advanced to the Bergen County Finals. The freshmen lost in overtime again, this time to Old Japan, and then Ramapo. They did what they always do, which is win the county championship, record 5th in a row. But despite all that, BC 15-4-1 on the season. They're the number 2 seed in North Non-Public A. They've got a matchup waiting for them in the first round at Crusader Stadium against Pope John, and then potentially on the horizon, hosting Del Barton, which would make a huge difference in the semis, and then a potential matchup if they get past the Green Wave in a sectional final against the number 1 ranked team in boys soccer in the country in St. Benedict's. Everything there is out on the table, but hey, when you're starting to win at the clip that soccer is, you're going to feel frustrated when you're going toe-to-toe with some of the elite programs in all of New Jersey.
Yeah, you got to feel for the soccer team with a tough, hard-fought loss in the county final. But I mean, I know he does not go here, but I have to say it, right? The kid from Ramapo, who scored all 5 goals against us this season, had a hat trick against us in the regular season and scored both goals in the county final. I mean, if you're going to lose, right, you're going to go down against a kid who's having an unbelievable performance. I mean, hats off to him, but. Listen, everything is still in front of us of what we're trying to accomplish. Yes, that it would have been great to have the opportunity to win the league, to win the county, win the state. The success that the soccer program has had, I also have to say very similarly to what you said about football. We are having a more successful run now in soccer overall in terms of consistency than I think we've ever had in my lifetime. I know that the teams in the 80s were excellent, and I know that the Aleco year was the gold standard, right? Like, everyone talks about that. But when you look at last 7 years, has there been a program at Bergen Catholic that's been more consistently in the conversation in the county, in the state, making state semifinals, winning percentages above 700, that has to practice a block away for an hour and a half, 4 days a week? Everyone talks about the football program, and that's the brand. Everyone talks about, Bergen Catholic football, Bergen Catholic football, Bergen Catholic football. Well, we got one field. So the team that gets sacrificed is the soccer team, who has to walk over to the Doug Parcells Athletic Complex every day from 2:30 to 4 to practice. And yet here they are making county finals and winning our league, for the 5th or 6th year in a row. The number 2 seed in the state against the likes of a Del Barton and a Seton Hall Prep and a St. Benedict's, right, and a St. Peter's. That has to be remembered when we talk about our soccer program, is how much they sacrifice to be good. And I also look at it from an admissions lens. They do such an amazing job of working with prospective families through this process, doing their own mini info session at open houses, coaches represented when different athletes come for Crusader for a day, doing an information night for accepted students that gets almost 50 families to attend. They have almost 40 kids come out for the team where you can only take 18 kids. We almost forget that success is not a given, right? And yes, you always want to be able to win, and yes, you always want championships. We want them to win a championship. It's disappointing when we don't. But when you look at the totality of their situation and what they deal with in the fall, I don't ever want to lose sight of the fact that competing in the same season, and yet they do what they do with what they're up against, I mean, that's a testament to them.
And again, like you said, at Bergen Catholic, you want to compete to be the best, and you have to play the best. And Rampo has been the goods. Again, there's a reason why they've now set a Bergen County soccer record of winning 5 consecutive Bergen County championships. I mean, the talent, the coaching is through the roof there. It didn't happen this time around for BC. But obviously the future is incredibly bright when you're having all these years in a row of, even at the freshman level, advancing to the county finals. And the nucleus of this varsity group is still of that undefeated freshman team from a couple years ago. Now you have a chance to really make a name for yourself. You have to make some noise in the state playoff, and because of the PowerPoints and based on your body of work, you don't even have to go to Del Barton, which is a very difficult place to play at. You will get a chance to maybe play 2 games at Crusader Stadium, and if you take care of business there, then it's just, hey, you're playing with house money, and you try to take down Goliath, and you could have a shot at them, and you played them last year in the sectional semifinals. So now you have a chance to do something here, and again, 15-win season. Incredible performance by Coach Berkanish's boys, and we wish them all the best. Congratulations to the freshman team and the JV teams on great seasons as well. The soccer program has been building gradually throughout the course of Coach Berkanish's tenure, and it is something to watch and support. So kudos to them and their run to a state championship, something that I was lucky enough to witness as a freshman here when Aleko and his Crusaders won the state championship. It didn't hurt having the number 1 player in the country also being on that team, which is what Aleko was after being named the National Gatorade Soccer Player of the Year that year before going on to a star-studded career at UVA. The cross-country team is getting ready to compete in the state group championships. That's going to be this Saturday down in Homedale. So we wish the Harriers all the best there for the cross-country season. So that's a rundown of the Bergen Catholic sports teams here so far as we move into the postseason portion of their seasons in the fall. And now we take a look at some of the upcoming events here on campus at BC. And one of the most notable ones, Matt, is going to be the annual blood drive that the Bergen Catholic Health and biology groups run here with Mr. McCluskey, that they're going to have the blood drive being run on Wednesday, the 12th. And Bergen Catholic is gearing up as we're moving closer and closer to obviously the gala coming around the corner now. Now we're in the month of November. It's real. But another cool thing that they're going to be having is with the Crusader College Counseling Experience. They're going to be having, Matt, a college panel on November 13th in the gym, primarily for juniors, but also for seniors who haven't really decided on their schools yet. And they're having over 20 different colleges and universities in attendance there. And then some of them, including St. Elizabeth, Seton Hall, Iona, are going to have instant decision days, where if Bergen Catholic students bring their official transcripts, they could be reviewed and given an automatic admission if they were deemed to be worthy. So it's going to be another great event coming up here, that what Bergen Catholic does in providing opportunities in the difficult college process for families to understand, gather enough information to make dedicated decisions.
Goes back to that academic leadership. The fact that we're going to have that many schools here for a panel, and then we're going to have that many schools come here for instant decision day. I think some schools might have one every once in a while. The fact that we have that many that come to do instant decision day with our students, colleges want our boys. They want the young men that are here in this building year in and year out, and it goes to show the well-roundedness of our students.
So that'll do it for another episode of the Bergen Catholic Podcast. Episode number 40 is in the books. So for my co-host, Matt Rosa, I'm Dan Long, saying so long, take care, and Deus Volt.